All right. All right. I'm very excited to introduce you guys to Mark Monroe. This is another episode on הדיל הזה עוד לא סיפרתי, which is בארצות הברית, which is in English. It's I haven't told about this deal in the States. So it's about the journey that people are going through in real estate in the United States. Usually I interview Israeli investors. Most of them are my students because I want to show them that real people, usual people are doing that. But also I always want to give them more content about how to do things creatively. And that's why, you know, I interview. We know each other not long ago, but we have a very good connect. You know, we connected immediately. We are helping each other, which is amazing. And you are in a subject which is creative financing. That's what we're going to talk today. I'm going to do another webinar. I think creative financing is it's going to be a very important niche in the next few years during this recession, or coming recession. So that's why I did it urgent to find somebody who can talk, and we know each other. That's why we are here. So Mark, can you introduce yourself, who you are?
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. So I'm Mark Monroe. I currently live in South Florida, Boca Raton. It's about 45 minutes to an hour north of Miami. It's a beautiful sunny day right here. It's a Sunday afternoon, enjoying it. Originally from upstate in Vermont, where Ben & Jerry's ice cream is, Larry, Darryl, and Daryl. The second store is my hometown. I went down to the Washington, D.C. area, went to school down there, and that's when I got into real estate banking. So I'm going to show my age here. So I got into real estate banking back in 1995 in the Washington, D.C. area. Ended up having 107 loan officers up in that area. So that's really what my background is. And then throughout the years, when I was younger at that age, I had different clients that were investors. So I started watching and learning from them. And over the years, I learned different type of strategies on how to buy real estate. And, I've been through probably 5 downturns in the market. And late 90s, we had 9/11, a little one just before the big bump. And then I was also in part of the crash, in 2008. And then we had a little bit of pullback, but I can name 3 of them that were pretty big. And so you have to, be flexible and understand different strategies depending on what the market condition. And quite frankly, I like the downturn markets because a lot of realtors, investors that are vanilla, that don't understand different strategies and being creative, they tend to leave the business. So there's a lot more opportunities, and you can get better deals, quite frankly, through seller financing. I call it creative real estate investing, kind of, quite frankly. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So, and how many years are you doing the creative financing as a real estate investor?
Well, I started back in the late 90s. Doing creative. It was one strategy. That's all I knew back then. It was called the sandwich lease option. And that was back in the late 90s. So what that was is the market was slow, and houses were, I can't remember how long, 4 to 6 months it took for a house to sell. And a lot of the times these people, they transferred for a job, they built a new one, and they couldn't sell it. So what I suggested is, hey, why don't we, I'll go ahead and buy your property on a lease option, also known as rent to own. I'll rent it from you for a few years. I'll take care of the maintenance and repairs up to like $3,500, and then we'll go ahead and close on it. And a lot of times people are like, oh no, I need my cash out of my home to go buy another home. Well, since I did real estate banking, I had a mortgage. Hey, this is what we'll do is we'll go ahead and refinance your primary residence down to like 85% loan to value, take your cash, and then you can use that. So we refinanced the home. By the way, your new home that you're going to do, I want to do that loan. So I did the loan on that particular property. And then I would go ahead and take that property and do what's called a sandwich lease option. It allows me to sublet it to, I call a tenant buyer. And then I would go ahead and make money off of that.
Okay, I think for the audience, let's repeat it because this is one of the strategies we're going to talk today, which is, can you repeat that? How you structure it? What you approach we approach the seller. You say, okay, I would like to have like a lease option, meaning I will rent it from you, right? The payments for the rent will be towards the selling price, right? I will give you the price you want. The rent will be to the selling price, right? The purchase price.
Well, not all of it. It's usually like $100 to $150 credit monthly goes towards the sales price, just like a mortgage. You know, when you have a mortgage, you know, a lot of it, it's not dollar for dollar. Boy, I wish it was.
Yeah,
you know, that would be awesome. But normally it's, you know, I usually say, hey, I get $150 rent credit, long as I make my payments on or before the due date. So it comes off the sales price. So it's usually about $150, $200, somewhere in that, depending on the price of the property, in the monthly rent.
Okay. Can you give me an example with numbers?
Sure. I'll explain one of my first deals that I did years ago. So the particular property, the seller wanted, the property is worth about $200,000. I gave the seller, I believe, about $190 for it. And the rent, the market rent on that area, I think was $1,500. And I think I gave the seller about $1,350 a month in rent. Okay.
Less than the rent.
That's what I did. And then in contract, I got $150. And then I said, hey, I'm going to take care of the maintenance and repairs up to $3,500. Anything more than that, you most likely you're going to need use home insurance, like a fire, tree, or whatever. But hey, you don't have to worrying about being that landlord getting, a phone call at 2:00 in the morning because of the leaky toilet. So they like that. And then what I did is I take that and I sublet it. I find a buyer. Oh, by the way, I only gave 2 months rent down up front to the seller.
2 months rent up front.
Right. So what is $1,350 plus $1,350? Almost $3,000, close to it or something like that. Anyways, then what I do is I go ahead and I market that. I actually market that property for $230,000 to my end buyer on a 3-year lease option contract, or about 2.5 years. Because I want to give myself 6-month cushion just in case if they can't exercise and purchase that property.
Okay, so 1,350, right? 1,350. That's what you're paying, and how much your buyer is going to pay for the rent?
1,700.
1,700. So you have a spread between. Okay, so you are making a spread. That's why you call this sandwich, because you are making a spread.
Exactly, an arbitrage. And they put last month, first month in security, plus 3 to 5% down to the purchase price. So I got close to almost $10,000 down on that property up front.
And how much you paid for the seller?
Whatever, $1,350, like almost $3,000. So I gave $3,000 roughly about to the seller. I got close to, I think it was $9,500. So, I made about $7,500 spread on the front end. And then I also get money in the back end. So you get money today, you get monthly cash flow over the term 3 years, and then you get money in the end. And you don't even own the property. You're just controlling it through contract.
And that's why creative financing is so great. Now, creative financing doesn't work. This is only one strategy of creative financing. We will talk about the others soon, but that's why creative financing is so smart. You actually don't need a lot of equity to do it, right? So if I'm, for example, a lot of my students, not a lot, but some of my students are, in Israel, we serve like three years in the army, some of them more. But,
right.
But when you finish with the army, you don't have cash, right? So how do you get into real estate? That's one of the options. I had a conversation with one of my students a few days ago, and I told him when you are young, that's one of the strategies you need to start doing, because this is a way with no cash making the spread and getting into real estate. We will talk about how to structure it. I will find it in a second. Another thing is the creative financing does it work when the market is hot?
It does. It still can. Absolutely. I've done some land development deals that way with the seller. Doing the exact same thing. So it can work in both markets. And it will work on like people, if you're doing a wholesaling strategy, but your wholesale numbers don't work, but they're a motivated seller, you can do what's called a creative novation agreement, where you can say, hey, Mr. Seller, this house needs a lot of work. We need to put $50,000 into it. It's going to be, I can't get financing. I can't get hard money loan because there's the cushion. So what I need to do is, I need you to carry the note on this for a year, seller financing. And by the way, I'm not going to make payments to you for 3 months because I need to put all the money into the property. So I'm going to get 3 months rent or 6 months, whatever you want to negotiate that, because they know they can't sell it. And then you put the money into the property, and then you can go ahead and put it on the MLS and then sell it. And then at that time, when you sell it, you pay the seller whatever they're looking to. Let's say it's a $200,000 house again. Okay.
Just a minute. What is the name of this strategy?
It's called a creative novation agreement. A novation agreement. That's really what it's called.
Novation agreement.
Yeah.
And the idea of the novation agreement is that the seller gonna get the price he wants, or market price.
Close to it. Yeah. You got to make sure numbers work, but yes.
Yes. But you are not going to pay him anything at the beginning, because you're going to put everything on, right, for renovation. And you, on the renovation agreement, you say that you can sell it, rent it, whatever you want, right?
Correct. You can negotiate whatever you want on that. You just got to negotiate your term. Is it going to be a 1 year, or are you going to go out 5 years? Like right now, on all my stuff, I'm negotiating 5 to 7 years, because during this recession, I don't know how far the market is going to go down and dip. So I'll tell the seller, if you're wanting a higher price, I need a longer term, because we don't know what the market's going to do in the next, we're definitely pull back in the next year. And it's already showing in some markets like Austin, Phoenix, that they're already down 10% from its high. So I'll tell the seller, if you want to get your money sooner, you got to come down a little bit in your price. But if you want a higher price, I need a longer term. And then I look at my monthly spread and make sure I'm cash flowing. Now, there's some cases I'm not cash flowing and it's not worth staying in the middle. And I'll just take that deal that I structure and I'll just do an assignment and sell it to my end buyer, for an assignment fee. And then sometimes I'll even roll, like for an example, I have one right now, it needs $45,000 worth of work. I want a $15,000 assignment fee. But they don't have, that's too much to ask up front. And then the seller wanted 5,000. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. So I go to the seller, hey, we're going to do 3 months, no money down. We'll do 1 month. I'm sorry, 1 month, but then we're getting 3 months on top of it because we want to put it. And then I took my assignment fee and I get monthly payments on assignment fee for 2 years. So I get that cash flow coming in. So think about it. If you had 20 deals like that, because you're trying to get a nice assignment fee and it won't work. But if you can just create a note and put a lien against a property and just get paid your assignment fee, imagine having 20 deals paying you monthly cash flow on assignment fees. I'll do that all day long. Some people, wholesalers, they try too hard to get a big spread, and you can get a higher spread on assignment fees if you're going to do it in monthly payments, as long as your monthly payments work. You can't, whatever the market rent is there, you can probably go about $100 to $200 over, but you can't really go way over that. So then you want to make sure that they have the income. You don't want to bury your end buyer that they can't afford it. So I always make sure that they have really good jobs and really good cash flow if I'm going to do that.
Okay. That's how you screen your buyer, but just a minute. Okay. Because I know it's fast for some of the people, even for me. Okay. So let's take a number again. This is the novation. How do you call it? Novation. Yeah.
Novation agreement, but I'm doing it creatively, like through seller financing novation. There is what's called novation agreement out there wholesaling, but then I do it and I spin it and I do more into, the seller financing strategy. So it's just,
let's take numbers. Let's take numbers and do it slowly. Okay. So a house, give me an example of a house.
Well, the one I'm doing now, the one I'm doing now, it is let's say 200,000. Say the seller wants 200,000. The ARV, let's say it's worth 350.
200 and 350. That's a lot.
Yeah, because your house needs a lot of work.
Okay.
Let's just say it needs a major remodel, like everything, kitchen, everything done, electrical. Just say it needs everything done.
Okay.
but the seller wants 200,000. You have 150. So let's say it's going to cost you $100,000 to fix everything.
Okay.
You can go to the seller and say, hey, I want 4 to 6 months with no payments up front because I'm going to put all the money into the property.
What about the earnest, not the earnest money, the first deposit, like a deposit?
Well, maybe 1 month. You got to do something so you have monetary, and then you also want to record. You want to record that agreement on title so you're protected if you're putting money into that property.
Yeah. So okay. There is an advance 3,000 or whatever. Like,
right. Just to lock it up.
Okay, and then you get like a grace of time that you don't pay a few months not to pay, so you can rehab, right? Then you put so you're actually putting the 100, or you're going, what you're doing now? You're going
so then you can borrow the money, or you have the money, or you can get a hard money loan or whatever, and then just go ahead and do the finance. I'm sorry, go ahead and start putting money into the property, fix it up. Mm-hmm. And then once it's completed, let's say you put 100 into it, it's worth 350. There's $50,000 spread. You can just put on the MLS and sell it for that 350.
So you're actually so it's a kind of a JV, right?
Exactly. It's like a JV
look
agreement.
At this is JV, where the seller brings the property, you put the money for the rehab, or like you said, you can now sell it to another investor and get the fee. Right, if you want like 15,000 for the fee, and if the 15,000 doesn't work, how do you said like you're gonna rent it after you renovate it? How are you gonna do?
I usually don't rent. I want it to end. I don't want to be the landlord. I prefer of creating a note and get monthly payments and be the bank.
Got it.
That's what I prefer. I don't want to get that phone call at 2:00 in the morning.
Okay, so you're not dealing with tenants. So you get it. So the seller gets a note, or you're getting the note from the buyer.
Yeah, you'll create a note and put it against the property, and the buyer's the note holder.
Okay, got it.
I'm sorry, the seller's a note holder. My apologies. The seller's the note holder. There. So God forbid if I defaulted, they automatically get first. They get the property.
Okay, and
it's their protection.
Okay, and then you put it on the MLS. But if you want to, let's say you want to. Now you have a note from the seller. You can do like a wrap, like putting the deal for another buyer that you will do like a seller financing, and he will get and pay the payments with a spread between the rate that you are getting from the owner to the buyer.
Exactly. Yep. So let's go to a easy, simple deal. Okay. Let's say we're doing a seller financing. It's called a land contract. So the land contract for deed, installment sale, it's all the same thing, without the novation agreement, without them waiting. Let's just say it's just straight clean. Well, first of all, in the US, 38 homes have no mortgages on them. So remember that 38 has no mortgages. So there's a lot of opportunity for seller financing out there.
How many?
The seller carrying the note directly. I'm sorry.
How much you said? 38 million?
38% of homes in the US have no mortgage on their property, free and clear. Okay. Nice. So another option is just seeing, hey, would you, we have one, and I think we went over this the other day, is I purchased one straight seller financing, 11 units, 0 down, got paid $9,700 at closing. We closed August 30th. 2 days later, we collected close to $10,000 in rent on September 1st. That's straight seller financing.
What is the motivation for a seller to do that?
Great question. So this particular one is the father or the husband used to own many properties throughout the town. And he was a landlord for many, many years, 20, 30 years. I don't remember exactly how long. So these properties were paid off. Well, what happened was he passed away roughly 8 years ago. So then the daughter, 28 at the time, took it over and she was managing them. They were selling some off. They had 11 units left. Well, the daughter got in a motorcycle accident and she passed. So then somebody actually, one of the other daughters knew I purchased real estate. She's an attorney. She actually reached out to me. She goes, hey, would you be open to buying these properties? because, and I looked at it and I started talking to, because the mother now had the properties and she didn't know how to manage anything, but she liked that monthly cash flow. So I asked her, I said, how much money do you need a month to live so you get that nice cash flow? Because otherwise she was going to get hit bad with property tax or capital gain tax. So she liked that monthly cash flow. So she wanted $2,200 a month. So I looked at random numbers. I'll say not a problem. So now we pay her. She's got a mortgage on the property and we pay her $2,200 a month. We increased the rents. We're collecting probably close to $13,000 now a month in rents. We moved everybody off and they're on their own. Like we worked on it. So we purchased this last year. So we took a year kind of working on increasing rents, moving people off of the oil, installing like solar electric and stuff. So then, but now the tenants are paying it. So this one I did with my cousin that's up in New England because I don't want to manage. I said, hey, if you want to manage it. So we increased that value of that property over a year by $275,000 because we went in and increased all the rents. And now we're, like I said, now we're collecting, I think, close to $13,000. So we're cash flowing after all expenses about $4,800 a month. And we purchased that with zero down through seller financing, creative financing.
So they're doing seller financing. The seller doing seller financing, and you are paying them how much? You said
$2,200 a month.
$2,200 a month, right?
Correct.
And then and the rest is yours. So it's like but what have you agreed on the price? You got to agree on the price.
We agreed at $400 at that time, and it was below the value. We agreed for $400 at that time, and I don't remember the rate. I'd have to back in the number to the rate. So yeah, and then that property we want to increase it. It's worth probably close to $750 now, if not a little bit more. It is not the we had to go deal with a lot of problem tenants of kind of going through and weeding them all out, but we have one still not paying that we're going through the process, but we still have enough cash flow coming in on that property to kind of weather the storm on that. So that's not a big deal on that one, but that's an example right there with the zero down on seller financing.
For what is the loan term with them? Because they are giving you a loan, right?
So it's amortized at 30 years with a 10-year balloon on that one with the seller.
So you're just paying them the rate?
The rate's fixed. I think the rate's somewhere around, 3.75 to 4%, somewhere in that area. When we did it, that's where the rates were at that time.
So in 10 years, you got to pay them $400.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. We could technically, we'll look at it. We're debating, do we want to just sell it or do we want to hold it? We're we're cash flowing nicely. We had somebody come in and want to offer because the property is in a prime area on public water and sewer. And when we even looked at it, it's zoned where we could build up to 40 units on that piece of property.
Okay.
So we may end up doing that as well.
Okay, let me go over some questions people have. Okay, they ask about the owner motivation. Usually the owner motivation is because they are not getting the price they want, right? So when you offer them creative
are you saying the motivation why they would do this?
Yeah, why they will agree to any creative finance?
Great question. The house is sitting empty. They need to move to another property because of job, or believe it or not, a lot of them are I call them tired landlords. They got beat up during COVID and people not paying, and they just out. This example that I just gave you, that was a motivation. A family member passed away and they like that monthly cash flow coming in. That's another. We're actually in the process of now, exact same thing. Owner of a mobile home park passed away, and we're looking at possibly doing some type of seller financing on that for taking over doing something with a mobile home park. So there's a lot of different ways going about that. A great resource of finding these leads. Do you want me to tell a little tip?
No. Okay. We will go because we have
no problem
options on the creative financing. Another question that Elon is asking: if you don't own the property, first tragedy, the sandwich, you cannot get the tax benefits of owning real estate, right?
That is correct.
What about tax benefits?
That is correct. Now you could do seller financing or contract fee deed to get the tax benefits, but you can't do it through lease option. The other beauty thing about lease option is, like, say the market really tanks, you can give that property back to the seller. So you're just controlling a property through contract, but you're correct. You are not getting the tax advantages if you're doing a lease, just like a tenant wouldn't, but you're making money through the cash flow of it the other way. So that is the downside.
Okay. Do you always get an attorney to look at the contracts, or
I've already had my attorney do all my contracts. Yes, 100% I do that. And then a lot of times the sellers will take it to their attorney and let their seller go through it. And I always recommend that, hey, let your attorney kind of read through this. I always tell them, always make sure you and it says in a contract, make sure you have your attorney read it, because you don't want them coming back saying, hell, you told me something different. I'm like, make sure you have your attorney read that contract.
Okay. Amit asking, Rafi, can you ask him if he has a list of possible buyers he already knows and work with, or he lists his properties on the MLS? When you want to sell a property with a creative financing, do you put it on the MLS or you send it to your buyer list?
I do it all. I put it on all the social media, I do Zillow, MLS. You can do the MLS. You're going to pay a realtor fee. Depends on what my exit strategy is. If it's just going to be a lease, I will put it on there, but I'm showing it as more of a rental, because you don't want to pay the realtor 6%. You want to pay it as a rental where they get 1 month's rent. And then sometimes, though, I do work with realtors, by the way, and I pay the realtors their commission sometimes in installment sales over the term as well, if there's not enough room in it.
Okay. Okay, we will talk about how to find it. Okay, finding deals we will talk about soon. Does seller financing mean basically that the seller becomes a bank and the buyer pays them a mortgage? Yes. Also, do sellers usually finance 100% of the property? What percentage of financing is the common one?
It's all negotiable. I try to get close to 100% as much as possible, with very little down. Like I said, I do first month or last month. So what is that, like 1%, 2% down? In some states, you want to put the 1% down because it's, if you're doing a lease option, because there's certain regulations. If you only put 10, like there's a case one time in Florida where somebody only put $10 down on a contract, and they tried controlling it, and the judge ruled in the seller because it wasn't significant funds to put down. So in the state of Florida, I always recommend putting one month's down, 1 month into it. So what I do in my contract, if I'm doing a lease option, I say I'm doing first month or last month, but I call it as an option fee, right? And that's the 1%. But in the contract, I'm saying, oh, Mr. Seller, you give me 1 month's rent free up front, because I'm still going in. I'm telling them, hey, I'm going to give you 2 months rent, security, but then I'm putting it in a contract, an option line as 1%. Hey, you're getting what we talked about. You're still getting this much money, what we told you, but it's going into this line. It's called an option fee for a lease option. And you want that because you show you have equitable interest in it. Oh, by the way, if you don't buy it, I tell the seller that money's non-refundable and they get to keep that. So that's one thing. The option fee, when you put it down, is non-refundable. Now, if you're selling it, right, to your end buyer, it's technically not refundable, but in most of my cases, I will give it back depending on the circumstances. If they're not paying me, no, I won't give it back. But I had one lady that was purchasing one of my properties up in Boston where she couldn't buy it. So I told her, hey, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get your, we'll find somebody else to replace you. When they put the option fee money, I'll go ahead and refund yours back. So that's that one. Now that one turned into a weird situation because they wanted to stay in the property during the holidays, because it was like during the holidays. I said, sure, no problem, but you got to give me 60-day notice so I can find the people. And what happened, but you're still responsible for everything. So what happened was because I make it where they're responsible for maintenance and repairs, the pipes burst. And I said, hey, don't forget you're responsible. And she goes, no, I don't. I want to be the tenant. I said, hey, if not, I'm going to take it out of that option fee that you put down. So you have to use a judgment call on that.
Okay. Do you, Gal Shani asked, do you offer seller financing first or try and wholesale first? Do you do wholesale?
I do some wholesaling. I'll do some. I just know the creative financing so much better, but I will do some wholesaling. 100%. But a lot of times, as you guys see right now, you're having a difficult time finding a buyer for those deals because they want deeper discounts. Like I think I mentioned to you before, in the past 10 years, the deal used to be the gold, the deal. Now the buyer's the gold, in my opinion, because you can find a deal, but now you don't have the buyer because a lot of fix and flip guys are not fixed. They're stepping back because the market is pulling back so much. So if they want a cash and they want a wholesale, I'm going all the way down to 50% less the repairs because I want to make sure I'm giving my buyer a sweet deal. That's the only way I'm doing the wholesale deals in this current market. Otherwise, I'm saying, hey, you can make more money if you hold the paper. And then we'll talk about that a little bit later on about I show how I present it to them and how I can, and one of the ways I show them how you're going to make more money. Hey, if you hold this for 10 years, I can show you're going to make an extra $100,000 on an amortization schedule because most of it's going towards principal the first 10 years.
Okay, we will hold this anticipation. Nimi is asking, and the question keep coming, but we will go further. Was referring to what the motivation to this on the first technique sandwich. Why would he lease up the home for $1,350 so we can rent it for a bigger monthly rent? Why will he agree to lower?
Comes up all the time. Comes up because I'm going to take care of the maintenance and repairs for that property up to $3,500. So you don't have to worry about if there's any damages or any issues. You don't have to worry about calling a plumber. And that's the reason why I'm taking care of it. And by the way, and a lot of these times I'm going into these homes, I'm putting some nice landscaping out in front of it. I may do some cleanup and paint. So I might be putting some money up front. Some cases I do, some cases I don't, but that's my rebuttal to the seller.
And your buyer?
And my buyer what?
And the buyer that you rented for $1,700, is it including maintenance or not?
Oh, his response for all the maintenance and repairs, and he also has to get his insurance. Because you're structuring a deal where they can become homeowners, they're willing to pay a little bit more of a premium because they're having that dream. I have one where it's a lease option. This guy, him and his wife went and spent $5,000 on building a beautiful deck out back. My property here, where I'm actually sitting right now, I purchased this thing. I went under contract in 2010 and I kept renewing it for 5 years. I had a great relationship. I ended up closing in 2015. He came down with stage 4. I'm like, oh boy, I better close on this because the children are going to get involved. I closed on, I had $57,000 of equity when I closed on my particular property. And I actually, in about the last couple of years, I started putting money into, I did my nice new floors. I did crown molding. So I knew I was going to purchase the property. So I started putting a little bit of money into it. And I never bought like the freezer motor went. I didn't bother him. I just took care of those things myself. So it's a different type of mentality and a different tenant because it's they take, they're looking at as its home ownership. The other thing is I look at properties. We'll wait till I get to that in a little bit how we find properties, but I look for nice homes.
Okay. Amir asked what happened if you buy something and the price goes down. You can always give back the seller
and that is correct. And what I'm doing in my agreements right now, because that is something, it is a concern I'm having right now. So I am not, normally I would give 100%, but I am coming off of the prices right now to anticipate the drop in the price. If they want a higher price, I tell them I'm just going to assign it and I'm going to bring somebody and I'm just going to assign my position to you. You got to work directly with them. But also I put in there, if the value is not there when they have to go time to purchase it in like say 3 years, if it's not there, they have to extend it until the value of that property is back to the purchase price on that.
That's smart.
I did because I want it to be fair for everybody. I want it to be fair for the buyer and I want it to be fair for the seller. So, I'm willing to give you your price, but worst case scenario, you may have a longer term, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Can you do the same and Airbnb it?
You can. People are doing this with the Airbnb model. Yes. Just be upfront with the seller, though. Don't mislead the seller. I always recommend being upfront and telling the seller what you're going to do with that property. Hey, I'm going to be making the payments. I'm taking care of maintenance repairs. You're the bank. What do you care? Okay. And that is one of the current, let me answer something because that does come up a lot. What happens if those people destroy my property if I put it into place? Well, That's why, you know, you have homeowners insurance too, renter's insurance, you know, if it got worse. I have had that happen one time many years ago, that one person went, actually what happened was they squatted and got into the property. They knew it was vacant and they squatted, and it was an estate that it took me 6 months to get them out. And it took 6 months to get them out. And I just did a lease option, just got on the contract, and we're just started marketing, and somebody moved in. What happened was this family, they liked, I'm giving all the horror stories here. So I'm giving you two bad stories, but I have a lot of home runs, but I'm giving you a couple.
That's why we call it. I haven't told about this deal. We talk about the horror stories.
I know, but I do have some home runs, like the one with no 100% financing. But this one, what happened was, we had somebody, the people went to look at the home on a Thursday, and they said they liked it, and I didn't hear anything from them. And then on Tuesday, somebody else went to the home and said, "Oh, there's people living in here." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" The people that went and saw the home on Thursday went and moved in and took possession on it a Saturday and became squatters. So it took us 6 months to get them out, and they destroyed the place. But the seller had insurance that took care of that.
Okay.
But that was very, very, I'm only giving a couple of my horror stories, but most of them are pretty good. But that's part of the wounds in being in the industry for so long.
Yeah, I'm reading more question. Okay, I think, okay. So another question, you know what, Marco, I will answer in a second. So we had, what strategy we have talked until now freely, right? Let's break it down. The first one was the sandwich lease option.
Lease option, sandwich lease option. And we touched a little bit about assignment lease option, where you, instead of staying in the middle, you just sell your position.
Yeah, or for assignment fee, right? You do
Correct.
the lease option, and you said that's the second
right.
one.
And you can get paid all up front, or you can get monthly payments depending on the cash flow.
On your assignment, you can tell them, you can give me the assignment fee through payments.
Correct.
Okay.
I do that a lot.
Okay.
People turn down, and you can get more money as assignment fee. I like the passive income. Yes, it's nice getting a hit up front, but if you get a lot of deals paying you monthly passive income, I'll take that all day long. And you can make more money instead of only, you know, if it's, instead of they can only do 5, you can possibly do 12,000. You can double your assignment fee if you're going to break it down on a longer term payments and installments, and make it as a note, so you make an interest payment, you know.
Okay. What else do we have?
Want to talk about contract for deed or seller contract for deed a little bit?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
It's your
can I give you a quick story real quick about the lease option before we go to contract for deed? So I have a lease option that's actually being exercised that I did to somebody 2 years ago. And what's crazy is this story. So 2 years ago, when I was trying to market this property, it was in the Orlando area. I needed $12,000 down for everything, you know, first month when I was marketing the property. Well, I had this one buyer that had a roofing company, and he had a roofing company, and he didn't record all his income, but he had great money. I saw his bank statements. He didn't want to show income. I said, well, you know, for you to qualify to take ownership of this property, you have to show your income on the books to be able to get your financing at the loan. This guy did not want to do that. No. He was willing to give me $24,000 down. And he's literally, he's within an air, is getting ready to write 24,000. I'm like, you're going to put the money on the books? No. I said, the problem is I'm going to take your $24,000 and knowing in 2 to 3 years, you're not going to be able to get financing. I'm not going to do that to you. So I turned that guy down, went in and found somebody else. They only had $8,500 to put down. I did the rest of it installment sales over 6 or 8 months. I don't remember exactly. Now that particular property, I went under lease option for $170 with a seller. I sold it to them for $209. Now they're exercising the option now because it's due. Now that property is worth $271. So they're going to get a sweet deal. So I was like, one side of me is like, oh, I hope he can't get the financing because then I could go, but I referred him, he's getting financing. We're going to close on it in the first week. So I'm going to make my spread, and then the buyer is going to end up getting, and the seller's happy too. So technically we close sooner, but the seller wants to close the first week of January because of tax purposes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
That's sweet deals for everybody.
Exactly. So you got to make it a win for everybody, All right. The next one is what I like to do is contract for deed, land contract, installment sales, really depending on the state, is where it's kind of the same thing as a lease option, but you're actually controlling it more and taking control of making payment. You can make payments directly to the mortgage company on behalf of the seller, and then the seller gets the difference. You can use a servicing company, and then you can get the tax benefits of that one as well, because you're the one making the payments on the property. So it's a hybrid of seller financing. It is seller financing.
It's also subject to.
Yeah, it's a hybrid between subject to and lease options. You're kind of in the middle type of thing. So what I do is I listen to my seller, and depending on what the seller is trying to do and how they feel, then I'll pitch lease option, sub to seller financing, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. That's when I'll go ahead and pitch that. So, the seller the contract for deed is that's good for the novation one I was talking about. So it's kind of, and then I usually will do longer terms on those. Those are usually 5, 7, 10, 15 years long, and they become the bank. And what I do is I show them on through an amortization schedule, my calculator, like, hey, you become the bank, you hold it, you want to you become the bank, so you're getting your equity. Let's say they have a loan still left at 100,000,
okay,
and say the house they're selling it for 300,000, okay, right? And you're and then you're giving them maybe $5,000 down. So the difference of the equity, right? It's technically a second mortgage or whatever you want to call it. I'll show them how much money they're going to make on an amortization schedule selling it through this way. They can make an extra 50, 75,000, because based off the amortization schedule, most of it is going towards the interest versus the principal. And I show them, okay, at 7 years, look at how much balance is left on that. I paid you $75,000 and it showed like $25,000 of interest. And then you still got another $200,000 coming out in down the road.
I gotta stop you because I think the number is confusing. I think I got you. So there is like the house worth 300, right? It's already fixed or not?
Yeah, you can say that one's fixed.
Okay. And there is a mortgage for 100.
Yes.
And you agree with them to pay them how much?
Say 300, right? So then you're at 200,000, and you're going to give. So they're going to carry a $200,000 note or whatever, but you're giving, say, $5,000 down. So the 195,000
goes to the mortgage they own.
Well, it will go. Yeah. So that's the seller. So you kind of figure out what the payment is on the first mortgage. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out what the payment is in the equity carrying another mortgage with the seller. So it's like a first mortgage and a second mortgage. And then you just make the payments and you show them that you're going to be making more money on the interest over the time and paying it down.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. What is the interest rate you're going to give a seller?
Right now, I'm doing about 7.5 right now. So it just.
How do you determine the interest rate?
What's that?
How do you determine the interest rate?
Because they kind of know what's going on with the market. And what you do is you play with your term to make your monthly payments work for you, if that makes sense. So you can do your amortization schedule like at a 10-year, 5-year, or go out 30-year. So I'll say, hey, look, you're getting your interest still, but I'm going to play with the term based off of my monthly payments, because I want to make sure whatever the first mortgage payment is, and then the seller's payment, that is within line of what the going market rent for that area is. Like, it can't be way out of whack, if that makes sense.
So what you're trying to do is see from the amortization table how much the payment will be and how much the rent will be, right? And you want to have the spread. But you said you don't want to be a landlord. So what do you do after you do that?
You said I don't want to be a landlord or a lender.
Yeah, you don't want to be a landlord. You don't want to deal with tenants. So what do you
Right.
do?
So you could put your fee into that as well. Let's say you're charging $25,000. If you want a $25,000 fee or whatever, you can put all that into that same and make sure your number works too. So you could do a note as well for $25,000, like at 7% as well, and make sure and put all that in there. So, hey, you know what? Send me the payment. And then I have it set up so it's so easy. It just comes into my system and then all the payments are dispersed. You know, it's all ACH.
So you're doing also seller financing to another buyer with the spread.
Correct. Right.
Equity and the spread on the equity and the spread on the payments.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. What else? What other strategy?
The other one would be the subject to.
Okay.
Subject to the existing mortgage.
So what? Oh, okay. So what is the difference between the subject to and the contract? How do you call it?
The difference is you actually take in a subject to, you're actually taking ownership of the property. They're transferring it into you. You actually control it 100%.
Okay. So the first one you calls, what is the name again?
The first one, you guys are both kind of entitled, the seller and you together.
What is
because it gets recorded. It's a contract. They're still technically entitled, the owner, right? Lease option, it's all them. The contract for deed, it's both you guys together to join on it with a contract. It gets recorded. And then a sub two is you're keeping the existing mortgage in the seller's name, but you're transferring the property over to you, and now you are controlling it and you own it.
Why do I need to do that? And when do I do that, the subject to, and when do I do the contract for deed?
It's really depending on the seller. Both of them are great, but a lot of people want to control that property just in case if there's any issues. They're just kind of taking it over. Now, the sub two can be a little dangerous because back in the 80s, they put in the mortgage agreements, if you're transferring a property out of the original seller's name into another person's name, that's called what's the due on sales clause. They could call that loan due and you have to pay it off. So that's the danger part. So a lot of these guys have been doing this and putting in an LLC. And I think it's very dangerous because, you know, they've been doing it for the last several years. The interest rates are around 3%. Now the interest rates are over 7%. Those lenders are going to start calling the loans due because they can redeploy that capital at a higher rate. So what I do is if I'm going to do one of those, I make it look like I'm putting it in a family trust. I'm transferring the property in a family trust for estate purposes, but then I'm the beneficiary. That stuff doesn't get recorded anywhere. That's just document. So when you transfer it into a trust and make it look like you're setting it up for estate purposes for the family, right?
Okay.
It's like a land trust or whatever you want to call it.
So why the bank cares?
Why does the bank care?
They can call for the loan anyway.
Well, they know, the banks know it's been going on. Well, if you transfer it in a trust and it makes it look like a family trust, they won't call it due. They could if they know the real seller doesn't own it, but they usually is not the case. But in the past, in the history, lenders, the smaller banks have been calling loans due. The big ones just they didn't care as long as they're getting their payments. But now, if they can call that loan due, if it says at 2.5%, 3% interest, call that loan due and take that money and redeploy it at a higher rate, you know, they may do that. So that's the only downside. That's really the only risk on it. I have a few of those sub twos, but they're perfectly fine. You have full control over it, even though the loan's still in their first name. And then each of these strategies, you have to go deeper dive to understand a lot more. There's a lot of moving parts within these strategies. We're just touching the surface on them.
Okay. What else do we have? What other kinds do we have more? We said 6, but I've lost count.
Well, the seller I know, and then the last one is just the seller financing. But usually those are the four main ones, because the novation is technically one, but you can do it in all of them. So it's just really lease option, contract for real land, sub 2, and then straight seller financing. Then you also have novation agreement that you can spin in there. But those are the main ones.
Okay. So how do you find the sellers, and how do you present it to them?
Through I like referrals. I call them bird dogs, but some like, oh, you can't say bird dog because they're saying, because the realtors, they can't do a bird dog referral, but I call them, I have people refer business to me. I got about 600 people that refer deals to me through Uber drivers, trash men, because they know the neighborhood, they know streets that are empty. UPS, Amazon, people that do the gardens, snowplow people removal. This one's a great one, and I'd never tell anybody this one. I keep this one in my pocket. Hospice nurses and funeral home directors. Do you know what hospice nurse is?
Yeah, when the people need the care, how do you say that? Old people or handicapped?
When they have less than 6 months lived, the nurses come in and right.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of times these children don't live in the area and they live in a home and the family just doesn't want to deal with it and get it ready. The last one I purchased that way, I mean, I told them just leave everything. They even left a cable box, and then we came in and just purchased it because that one actually was a wholesale deal, believe it or not. Because the family wanted the cash, but they didn't live nearby. They didn't want to, there's a lot to do to get the property ready to put on the market. So I came in. So that's another great source. Another one is somebody that drives senior people to the doctors, in our country that's seen the doctor, other real estate investors. I get a lot of deals.
This network, it's
all networking. 100% networking. I'm constantly networking. People know what I do, and I get calls and I get deals. I get deals every day.
People, let's say somebody is new. Okay.
Somebody's what? New.
My students are, let's say they are doing
Sure.
deals. They want to start doing, creative financing. They want to find deals. They don't want to do the marketing like wholesalers, right? So what? They start calling people like agents.
Yeah, you can call agents.
What do you tell them?
Do people do prop stream or pull data or anything like that?
Again?
Do your people pull data at all, like prop stream? Like how are they finding the wholesale deals?
Yeah, so they go to wholesalers.
They can do the exact same thing. They one of the questions when you're asking, when you're going through your script based off your wholesales, would you be willing to rent your property for a few years and then we close on it?
Again? So you're
would you be willing to rent your property for a few years and then we close on it? If they say yes, then they're open to some type of creative financing terms.
Wait. That's when you go directly to the owners.
Correct.
But let's say now you're approaching a wholesaler. Most of my students are working through wholesalers. They're not wholesalers themselves. Some of them go to this route. Okay. But now I want to talk with the wholesaler and I want to get, creative financing on deals, right? What do I say to the wholesaler? Do I start teaching them what I need to?
Hey, your leads that don't work for you in the wholesale world, instead of killing them, send them over to me. If I get a thing out of it, I can give you, if I make any money, I'll give you a referral fee out of it or a finder's fee.
How much you will pay for them?
It depends on how much of a spread there is in the deal. Each one's different. Usually anywhere between 10 to 20%.
Okay.
Okay. I make it because you want them to keep feeding you. If you take care of them, they'll keep feeding you all day long. You don't want to. I'm not greedy. I'd rather take a piece of something, depending on how much work. But I'm not going to be a pig. I'd rather have them make money so they keep feeding more deals because I'm going to make more money in the long run. So
they will refer you the owner, or they will do the work themselves?
Either one, whatever they want to do. If you just give me the lead, I'll take care and I'll take care of you. And if they want to be in the deal and they want to talk to the owner and they want to sell it, then I'll give them a bigger piece, but a lot of times they don't know how to convey and how to sell these things. That's the issue.
How do you sell it to an owner? How
do you sell to an owner?
Yeah. What do you say to them?
You have to go over the benefits. So the key to this whole thing, of creative financing, there's two keys to this whole thing.
Okay.
The two keys is how do you solve the seller's problem? How do you solve the problem? The second thing is, when you solve that problem, who is that buyer? Who's your buyer going to be? Is it going to be a fix and flip? Is it going to be the retail buyer going into the property? So you always want to look at your seller. What you go deep, why they're selling. You got to go deep. Why they're selling? What's the motivation? Do you need the capital? Figuring out what their issue is. I'll ask them, why don't you list it with a realtor? A lot of times they'll tell you why, and then you really dig in deeper into the motivation of why they're selling. Then at that point, then I start my juices, my creative juices. How can I solve this problem? How can I get them out of this situation? And then when I solve it, who's my buyer? Who's going to take, who am I going to exit this with? So I can just stay right in the middle and make some money. So I'm here's my seller, here's my buyer. I'm coming up with a solution, and you're solving the seller's problem because they want out of it. They just need to sell. And then you have a buyer that wants to buy a property that normally can't go through the traditional lending through the banks because they have poor credit, but they have good income. Once you give them into a property and they've been making payments on this property for a few years, it's much easier for them to get the financing, and plus they're getting the credit in line as well. If you're doing a contract for deed or land contract or sub two, there you can refinance it, some of that out of it. The lenders will treat that as a refinance. A lease option, they won't, just so you're aware of that. Okay. So they have to get the credit in line, but you can use the credits and contracts and stuff to structure your contract at the end for them to purchase it.
Okay. I'm gonna do a tougher, I'm gonna be tough on you. Okay. Now,
what's that?
I'm gonna be tough with you now. Okay. I'm gonna be.
Sure.
Okay. Can you give me like a tree of decision? If the seller says that, I will do that. If the seller says that, I will do that. Can you give me behind the scene how your mind think? How do you put the creative financing?
So how do I do the creative financing? I'm asking the seller, going through the questions like, hey, would you be willing to rent to loan? Yes. I'm asking, I'm digging deep into the seller. I'm trying to find out, I don't know if you heard of the terminology, are they a head person? Are they a heart person? Or are they a gut person? When they make decisions, do they go by the numbers, or are they talking about the house with the Christmas tree, the family, the neighbors? That's a heart person. Then the gut person is just kind of, they go with the gut, they walk into that dealership and they want that Mustang, so when I'm talking to them, I'm kind of understanding what kind of person I'm dealing with. And then I'm digging deeper, like, hey, tell me, why are you guys selling? Oh, whatever, we're moving. I'm tired of dealing with the tenants, whatever it may be. And then saying, hey, if I can show you a way where I can solve your problem and you make more money in the long run, being the bank, that's how Warren Buffett made most of his money, is lending his money out. So why don't you allow your asset to make you more money of carrying the financing in a sense?
Okay, so if I'm looking for monthly payment, that's what I need. I need every month this. That's why I want to sell. You will offer a lease option?
Yes. So a lot of these, by the way, is when I first present these to sellers, majority of them at first will say no. What happens is month 2, 3, 4, when they can't sell it, guess who they're calling? So I would say 70% of my deals came from people that had pitched a couple months ago. So you will get some one-offs in the beginning. A realtor is a great source, like expired listings. They couldn't sell their home. Why couldn't they sell it? Have the realtors pull expired listings and have them send them to you, and you look at them and see what's going on. Why can't it sell? Come up with a solution and then the realtor, can make some money off of it, a little bit. And then you're solving the seller's problem too.
Got it. Tell me, people, before we end this, can you send us some questions that you would like to know more? And meanwhile, tell me about, if I want to know more, you have a book just published like a few days ago.
It's number 1 on Amazon right now as the bestseller. And
yeah, well, we're gonna keep you there probably. But
perfect.
So tell us about this book.
So the book really kind of goes into details that I just talked about during this podcast with you just now, but it dives a little bit deeper. It's got some script. It just goes much deeper. Right now, we're just touching everything on the surface, but it goes into a lot more detail about the strategies and categories. And one thing I do want to explain, though, what strategy you do, you need to make sure that you check the states. Because just like wholesaling, you can't do assignment fees in some states. Texas, you cannot do a lot of these. You can't do lease options, and you can't do like land contracts. So that state is one of the worst states. You can't really do a lot of creative stuff, but you can do sub 2. But just make sure if you're doing some business in those states that you just check out and understand the regulations in those states. But those are the things I kind of go through all that stuff in the book, where I came from, like I said, what my background is, and then dive deeper into these strategies.
Okay. So you go, what are you teaching there? Going deep like example how to do it? You get how to talk with sellers. Give us like the
I give an example of the sellers, how to talk to sellers, the script going through the sellers, kind of the stuff that we just talked about. And then, how to find your buyers, where to find your buyers, and then questions and how to screen buyers. And then like, the team that you want to kind of put together, your loan officers, your realtors and inspectors and whatnot. It's the same thing that you do with your wholesaling.
Okay. I'm trying to find the link for the book. Do you have it in hand that we can send people right now? I think I found
let me find it. I'll send it to you on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Let me do.
So people can look and purchase. They can, well, they're in Israel, not everybody, some people in the States, so they can order it to the state. Or they can buy it in the Kindle version, right?
Yeah, a couple of your people asked about the PDF version. I don't have one of those. It's a Kindle. Then right now it's the Kindle version, and the hard copy is going to be coming out next week, or the week after. It's going to be coming out. I did the Kindle version first, just in case if the readers go through, if there's anything in there that they see a typo or grammar, I can kind of fix that, if that makes sense. Whoops, I'm trying to find out. I had that link here a second ago.
People are already putting that, but they put it with Facebook. They found it on Facebook. So
yeah, I just sent it to you in WhatsApp right now. So from my phone, so you can cut and paste it or put it wherever you want.
Yeah, I will put it behind. We will put it below the video for everybody. Some people will watch these episodes again because of the English, they need to hear it again. So
and this stuff is really advanced. So even people, I've talked to realtors in our country that perfectly fine, that's been in business for 25, 30 years, and I talk to them a little about these strategies, and their head spins a little bit. Sometimes I even talk to other investors and their head spin. It took me years to learn all these different strategies. I didn't learn them all in one time. I've learned one strategy, took me about a year to get that strategy really down, and then another strategy.
Yeah. Okay. Noah says she sent me a question. I didn't see it. Noah, so send me again here on the chat. And let's talk about the market, where it's shifting. Where do you think it's gonna? Well, we are not psychic, but what do you think?
We're already in a housing recession now, our market, and you guys probably all see this if the markets that they're working. They're already seeing that. I'm kind of looking forward to it. The market's kind of shifting. I've been doing some land development stuff, but I've been kind of putting that on hold a little bit because I see the land thing is going to end up coming. I think the perfect time, I think, to land stuff is probably going to be around early summer to midsummer next year, because it all depends on how bad the recession is going to be during the winter. We're definitely going to have a recession, but how bad is it going to? How deep is it going to go?
I think while the recession is gonna, let's say,
but I'm excited. That's when opportunities are.
That's when opportunity, and I think that's when you can offer sellers more offer sellers about the seller financing and the creative financing, because this is the time where they cannot sell with the price they want, and now you can offer them this creative financing. That's why I said at the beginning that I'm really excited about talking with you about that, because I think more people need to know about this strategy. If I was buying houses, that's what I would do. I think in the multifamily space, that's kind of what will start happening too, because sellers are also, and I'm talking about, the 50, 60, 100 units and above, they are not going to get the price they want, and they are used to the prices on 2021.
I agree 100%.
They are not going to get it. The LTV is too low, so they got to give, and they will have to give a better LTV, because right now the LTV is 60 to max 70, and I think even not 70, but they will need to give. I think in the multifamily space, they're gonna, something that happened a long time ago, and I think it's gonna come back to, is the master lease option, where we haven't talked about it, but in multifamily, when you have a lot of units, you can close with the seller on an option to buy in a certain price, but meanwhile rent the whole community at a rent price, and you putting the money into renovation and get the spread between the new rent, the upgraded units rent, and the rent you are paying to the seller, with an option to buy it in a certain price. And meanwhile, you're getting the property through the recession, and you can sell it or refinance.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. I'm excited. I'm even seeing land development projects going on in my neighborhood where they're having some issues where they can't, they're not paying their subs right now. And some big ones right here in South Florida, I'm starting to see that now, because that the funders are kind of getting tight. And I'm like, wow, especially a couple big ones that we all know going locally. I'm like, ooh, literally two of them that I heard about this morning. So we're starting to see, we're gonna see more and more of that, but you just got to be ready for it and just find the opportunity and just jump on it.
That's right. So Noah had a few questions, and we will answer some questions. Can you look at the chat too now? It will be easier instead of me reading to you in my Israeli accent. And Noah, which I really like, ask long questions. So can you look at the chat and answer her?
You want me to look at the chat?
Yeah. And
right.
Noah said he's
Tell him I'm the lady from well, I'd have to see her picture, because I met so many people at that event. I'm better with face than the names. But yes, that was a great time. Does she live in the States?
Yeah, she lives she actually lives next to you. I think she lives in Miami. So
okay.
So let's hear her question. Is the creative financing contract is different than an assignment or any other purchase contract, or you would do an addendum to regular contract?
You can do, I've done it all. I've done addendums to the regular contract. You could do that as well. And oh, I know who it is now. She said I look like Sean Terry. I know exactly who she is. She lives in Plantation. I know exactly. She's a great girl. I want to reach out to me so we can chat a little bit more. But anyways, on the contracts, yeah, you can have your own contract that you can have done for creative stuff, or find out who your title company is that you use, and they can actually have one too and kind of help you out with that. Yes, the title company, exactly. You have to have a good title company. At least options you technically don't need so much, but you could absolutely go through a title company as well. And I'd recommend also when you're end buyer, when you're going over this stuff, use the title company, or if you're doing it like a lease option, record it on Zoom and have the documentation that you explain everything through the process.
Got it. All right. Listen, was exciting. I think a lot of details, but people will listen to a few times, and if they need more information, they will go to the book. I think my goal was to open their mind that there are more possibilities than the regular fix and flip, the regular buy and hold. And as we talk, I really believe in this strategy, that if this is what will happen, that's what will an investor need in order to survive this recession and buy through this recession, is doing these creative deals. Mark, thank you very much. I
appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, reach out. And definitely.
If they want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to
you? I have they can Google I actually have a podcast too called Real Estate Power Play. You can find me like on any of the podcast places, YouTube, Real Estate Power Play. Google my name, and in there it has my bio, and in there has all my link to all my social media, emails, company, and all that stuff. So I really appreciate it.
We will copy it and put it on the description.
I'll send you my link tree with all my contact that has everything right there. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you everybody for being here, and see you next time. See you, Mark.